Hey YouTube, doing a video here on two carbs. This is a demonstration between this is an OEM carb and the parts here, and this is a aftermarket knockoff carb parts. I did a video talking about using aftermarket carb that didn't fit right, needed to be modified, stuff like that I went into, talking about, is it worth it getting one of these cheap carbs? Recently, Donnie Boy 73 did a video, a Q&A, talking about these kind of carbs and really sort of like why you should not use one of these if you're doing this for a customer. So if you're just doing this on your own, you're trying to fix your own machine, your carb isn't, you got a carb problem, you don't know how to clean it, or you don't have the proper equipment to do it, then you can try one of these. But as he said, he's seen many of these that come back later with problems and things like that. So I got two identical mowers that had the same engine, two Toro recyclers. One had a OEM carb, one had a knockoff carb. I was told that one ran and one didn't, but either way, I could see they were messed with because both of the bowls were on incorrectly. When this goes on, and the way the carb is oriented, this flatter section would kind of be oriented this way, and I could see both of these bowls were put on the wrong way. So there was also other problems with the machine. Somebody was messing with them. So anyway, in the process of pulling this apart, I started looking at these parts and I said, hey, let me do a side-by-side comparison, because just do it this way. That's just a little cap for the idle. So do they look the same? Well, from the outside you can't really tell. They look the same basically. Inside here, where you'll notice a difference. This has Welch plugs on both. This one only has it on one. I've seen this on another one I took apart. It was not here. It'll run without it, so that's not really a big deal. The only other main thing is this seat is a rubber seat that goes in here. This one is the brass seat that I showed on that previous video, cleaning that out. See how shiny brass that is now after I did that polishing in there. Also ran this through the ultrasonic. Now, why this carb when you put it on? Now this one looks better. The other one I talked about, it had sort of an imperfection here and it wouldn't really seal right. This one is pretty good. So these Tecumseh carbs, and now Chinese carbs, they've been making carbs for Honda clones and stuff like that for a long time. So that's probably why they put this brass seat with this needle with the rubber tip, because that's sort of the Honda design. So I guess they kind of morphed the idea of, let's use this seat in here and stuff like that. May all be well and good, but let's see. There's a jet here, and the same jet is here. But now in this Toro, see this little jet right here. Trying to get a good focus on it. Well, it's plastic, but there's actually a tiny hole that goes in there. this one here is just capped off. So, you know, there's certain versions of these carbs. One's called an emissions carb and something like that. So, you know, will that affect how it runs? If this is what it came with and you're putting this one on, possibly. So sometimes people may put these on and say that, you know, it didn't idle or something. So basically what I'm saying is you're not getting a direct replacement, clone, I guess you could say, identical thing. So there could be some variability that you're dealing with. Okay. Another thing is, well, this one has the primer bulb on, okay? And there's a ring that goes in there that holds that primer on. The reason why this one's not on is because when this primer was in, this ring, I could see it was all, see how it's all bent, and I could see it wasn't in there right. Well, actually, it was installed wrong. It was put on like this. So this is supposed to catch as it goes in, right, in this direction. But they actually put it in this direction. So it should catch around this lip, the seal, with this end here. So it should have went in this way. Got pushed in, so I'm going to have to straighten this out and put this back in. But you could have got this carb and said, oh, I got this carb and it doesn't prime. Yeah, because it's not assembled right. So again, you're playing with this variability. Okay, let's move on. We got a bowl and a seal, which is pretty much the same. Float, main jet, idle jet. Emulsion tube is plastic on this one with 2 O-rings. Over here it's brass with 2 O-rings. That could be an improvement. Float pin. This needle has the seat, or the tip has the rubber seat. This one has a separate one. Now, another thing I found was that this, in cleaning this idle jet, I could run a wire through it. Just one of these. I could just run it in this end here to open that. Okay. On this one I could not. I was able to get a smaller wire from this brass brush to go in there. So it is open. They are both open, but basically the jetting is different. So that could also cause an idle problem. I don't have this size bit to open this one up to this size, and I'm not going to do it. I'm going to put it together like as it is and see if it runs. But the basic gist is that this knockoff and this OEM are not the same, whether they're advertised as, you know, replacements or not. So something to keep in mind. There are differences. Another difference also is this one I noticed. There's no gasket here because it was basically mangled up and destroyed. And when I went to take it off, it was extremely tight. So, being that, like I said, I know somebody took it off because the bowl was on wrong. I think they tightened up this because they may have had an issue with some type of flooding. And I have seen these carbs flood between the jet itself, or the seat being dirty. So now you can see it's polished up nice. That could be a cause of flooding, or when you reassemble this with the float on here, now it's not all assembled. I'm just going to try to hold it one hand. There's a certain distance that you set that float at. It's 11/16 on this type of carb. That's the factory recommendation. I took one of these apart previously, cleaned it, okay. Put this float on. And it was set a little higher. So I adjusted it down, put it on the machine, and it started to flood. So I cleaned everything. I said, why is this thing flooding? So actually, because it's, you know, it's got a different seat, it's got a different needle, you know, that same distance probably is not correct. So I actually just reset the float higher, so it would shut the flow off, or, well, I guess it would kind of put a little more pressure onto that needle, and that cured the flooding problem. So that's another thing that's not the same. If you're doing a rebuild or something on one of these, or you find one of these and you're cleaning it, don't reset that float down to that same factory spec for Tecumseh. So that could also be part of the reason. So if this engine did not run with this carb, my assessment would be maybe it didn't prime, because it could have been an air leak because of that bad, the way the primer bulb was on. Could have flooded because this jet was dirty, or it could have been the way that the float itself was set in there. So again, you got multiple variables here, problems that you might have with this type of carb. And, you know, I'm going to link his video in there, but Donnie Boy, he mentioned that, you know, you may get these out of the box and they may run, but after a little while, then they don't. And I don't have long-term experience using these. Now, that being said, this is kind of the you know, the cheap Amazon, eBay knockoff carb that we're talking about here. There are some aftermarket manufacturers that are good, like if it's a Stens or Oregon, you know, companies like that. These no-name types, not so much. So you can get aftermarket carbs that are good, and then there's also bad ones. But some people just, you know, if you're, like I said, if you're doing it for yourself, it doesn't really matter. But there's guys out there I see that'll say, you know, selling mowers, saying new carb. Well, they just, you know, took one of these, threw it on. And are they really, you know, looking at what kind of product they're selling for, you know, I mean, somebody's going to use the mower for a season, or maybe they want to get more out of it, you know. If they're just selling to somebody who's like, I only want to pay a really cheap price, and they're like, well, this is really cheap because I only put this on, then I guess the customer's getting what they're, you know, what they're paying for, what they're willing to pay for. They don't want to pay the price of another guy who says, I, you know, rebuilt this carb and ultrasonically cleaned it and all that kind of stuff. So, but, you know, if you're looking for a mower, you know, just because a guy says he put a carb on, if the rest of his mower doesn't look good, or, you know, there's a reason that it looks like he's, you know, just basically trying to milk the market to try to make money, you know, that you're not doing a good service to your customer. But, you know, somebody who's fly-by-night like that maybe just wants to flip the thing, get the cash, and then, you know, disappear. So anyway, yeah, all right, well, hope you found it interesting, and that's just my comparison between the two. So All right, found it interesting, give me a thumbs up, and remember to like and subscribe. All right, thanks.